Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and namaskar to everybody. And I'm glad to see you here even after the lunch and after the tea break. Thank you. And thanks to the conference organizer to invite me. I asked Dr. Satpathy, what is the topic you would like me to cover? And he said, can you say something about the digital collections? It is such a vast topic, you can write several books on that. So it was the challenge, what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do in this talk, provide you a whistle-stop tour of the life cycle of the digital collections management. As we are aware, that the digital technology is evolving, and it is evolving very fast. It is being integrated into the society. We are seeing the emergence of smart vehicles, driverless cars. They have already started in the UK and I think in US as well. We are seeing the smart appliances in our homes, in our kitchen. In the UK, we can switch on our heating while we are still in the office. Your fridge will be able to order the food you want, depending on the data. So we are seeing so many things happening. And it is changing the way we are managing our daily work life and life at home. Also, it is changing the way the businesses are being run. And of course, it is also affecting the collections, the libraries we are managing, and we have to change. When I say academic libraries, and I think probably public library as well, what we do? We focus on our collection processes, on our collection activities to remain current, to stay relevant, to deliver the mission of our organization, of our universities. And the librarians, they have to keep up to date with the new technology, with the new things they are happening, and then integrate into the library staffing structure. I think what I'm saying is the lifelong learning for librarians to stay relevant, to deliver the mission and goals of their institutions. And here is the agenda of my talk. The first, I would like to set up the context in which we are operating. I will briefly discuss NISO's principles for good digital collections. Is Marshall still here? Marshall Breeding? I think he contributes a lot to the NISO's guidelines, and NISO is a National Information Standards Organization based in America. And then I will briefly give the overview of the digital collections management life cycle, and then the future of collections, which is tied with the future of the libraries. And I'm sure you will have some time to ask me questions. So the digital revolution, it is here. It has been around us for the last 60 years. And I hope that it is going to stay for another 40, 50 years in the same chaotic state before it becomes stable. It is important than the pen and the paper we have seen, but of course, I'm thinking the pen and paper at that time would have been seen very important as well. When I see the Industrial Revolution, it lasted for about 150 years before it became stable. And on the same lines, I'm guessing about the digital revolution. So it is affecting the digital society. So digital society is opening the door to a new society, and in which people, places, processes, and all things, as I mentioned, the driverless cars and the smart appliances at the home, they are hyper connected through sharing data and information. You have just listened to the wonderful presentation by Thomson Reuters that how the big data is helping us to make decisions. What else happens in the digital society? Few speakers, they have mentioned about the artificial intelligence and machine learning, how they learn. They use massive amounts of data to help us make daily decisions of our lives and making our lives easier and better. When I look at the advantage, the major advantage of the digital technology is very people focused, is very people centered. It helps us to create services, not us, even when you look at the Amazon or various services you use, they create our personalized services around the data they have collected. The one example I give you, I was just looking for some hotel booking in the Singapore without knowing that my mobile telephone, my iPad, they were synchronized with the Facebook. And as soon as I went into my Facebook account, all the hotel list was presented to me. This is the advantage of the digital technology. They provide you services just in time, just for you. And what else is happening? The co-creation is becoming a business norm. So how the businesses, they are taking advantage, such of my colleagues who have just talked, they are blending their business expertise with digital technology, and then they are working with their consumers, customers, and partners to create the value. So now I'm going to come back to the higher education, the university. I have spent nearly over 30 years working within the university, and I'm passionate about the higher education. So what is happening in the higher education? How the things are getting changed? The new learning ecosystem, because at first students used to be the consumer of the content, the consumer of our services, they used to consume the lectures, but now they are working as a partners. So we have the resource developers such as Pearson, such as other companies. We have educated our faculties, the librarians, and they are all working together. And here are some enabling factors which are enabling them to work together. The digital content affordance is becoming cheap, and also is easily replicable. You can replicate it, and you can disseminate in seconds around the world. Another enabling platform is Web.2. So we are working as a producers as well as consumer at the same time when we are offering. As you go to like blogs, you go to Facebook, as soon as you consume something, information, you are tempted to write at the same time. So you are working in this situation. The new learners, they are highly mobile. They are carrying so many devices at the same time. Their profiles, they are different. And their information needs, they are not static, they are different. So also in the universities, the focus is now on the competency-based education. The tracking the skills is very common in the Western world. Actually, rather than credit hours or the attendance, you look at the skills, because the university, they are rated, they are measured on their employability rate rather than just the pass rate of the students. What are the other factors? The changing modes of teaching, learning. Now from lecture based, we have a blended learning in places. We have all learning and adaptive learning. Digital research. Open access initiatives, they are producing a big amount of digital content. The MOOCs. When we look at these things, MOOCs, open educational resources, blended, they all rely on the digital content. So when now coming back to the future of the library, in India we discuss a lot about the library, the future of the library. I see library is emerging as a digital platform to facilitate the knowledge base of the institution. And how is it doing? The library role of a knowledge curation. I will discuss in my next slides what I mean by knowledge curation and digital curation. By knowledge dissemination, knowledge creation, and co-creation is the most important. The librarians now, if you sit in your chamber and not going to faculty, then you are gone. I think the message is that if you want to survive and thrive in this digital world, you have to work with the students, you have to work with your partners, you have to work with your researchers and with the faculties, going out actually there in the faculties to co-create the knowledge. Library as a digital infrastructure, creating rooms and all service center in the library which are highly interactive and inspiring. Library as a technology infrastructure. Yeah, some people, we were just discussing that I think one of the professors said, I go to the IT for my needs. IT people, they do understand the infrastructure. I have worked as an associate director for information resources for the library. Also, I have worked 3 years as an associate director for the digital strategy in IT services. So I do understand both sides. The IT people, they understand the infrastructure, but not the tools, not the applications. Here, as a librarian, you come to support your users. So library as an intellectual infrastructure, learning and innovative hub, community hub, cultural hub, and social. So what I see the role of the library in the whole knowledge creation scenarios, it's facilitating the connection, conversation, and co-creation of the knowledge. So what we are doing in the Western countries, how do we support the digital teaching and learning of our institutions? By providing digital rich spaces, which are inspiring. By providing maker space, that is to stimulate the creativity of our students and partners. By providing digital education centers or the virtual learning centers or the learning commons. It is quite common in the Western, even at the University of East London where I worked, we have the virtual learning center within the library. By creating the content and co-creation and acquisition, enabling, facilitating innovations in teaching and learning. Whenever we discuss the technology enhanced strategy of the university, the library is the core partner involved in that. Supporting for the digital technologies. When I say that supporting for digital technologies, majority of our students, they bring multiple devices to the library and they don't care who is there. They need support, and the library staff, they have to build that expertise to support those devices. I think somebody said in the morning that the footfall in the library is declining. Yes, it did happen in the Western countries. It did go down, but now when the library is providing all those services which I have mentioned, the footfall has increased many, many times. And that's what you need to do in India. And then library providing the technological platform, library management systems. I think in US they called ILS, Integrated Library Systems. I'm talking about the same thing. And the sophisticated resource discovery systems to provide seamless access to the digital content you have. And that is becoming very, very important. The learning analytics to support the personalized learning. In the University of East London, we have integrated our library management system with the virtual learning platform. And it traces all the students, which page they have read, how many pages they have read. So we are depending on the analytics to build our collections, but also is helping the students. They track students' success from that analytics. How we are supporting the digital scholarship? Of course, providing the digital content to the researchers, but management of research outputs and research data. We have heard from Dr. Bhattacharya and from Robin how they are supporting the scholarly communication and the research data. I think this has become very important. Previously, the libraries, they used to support only the final outputs of the researchers. But in this scenario, they have to be involved from the beginning. When researchers, they come up with the idea, from that stage you have to be involved up to the cycle, but also enriching the data as well. The facilitating scholarly publishing and also supporting the open access initiative move as well. By providing digital research platform such as CRIS. CRIS stands for Current Research Information Systems. Now some library suppliers also they are building the research information systems as well. And I think that why somebody else should manage those systems? Why not you? And the content is not just enough to help researchers, but also you have to provide the tool, how they can organize the information, manipulate the information and disseminate the information. And of course, this one is not a part of IT people's job. They won't even understand the reference management tools. Here you come as a librarian. And now I'm coming back to my topic, digital collections. I thought the context was very, very important to set up for the digital collections. This is the definition of NISO. It consists of digital objects that are selected and organized to facilitate their discovery. But here is my expanded definition of the digital collections. I think in the last quite a few years, what I was saying that the collections, they were very fragmented. The one side was the digitized resources, you call it digital collections. Then you have the e-resources and the all life cycles, they were managed very, very differently. But I see whether it's e-resources or it's digital collections, is borrowed or harvested from, they have the similar life cycle to manage. So briefly, I will describe the NISO's 9 principles of building good digital collections. Okay, colleagues, this is a question for you. How many of you have a collection policy in place? Digital collections. How many of you, or who has the collection? Please raise your hands. Who has the collection policy?
I don't know how to pronounce.
Yeah.
They call Perch model of electronic life cycle.
Okay, okay. How many of you have the collection strategy in place? You must have the university, like the university strategy for the next 3-5 years. Yes, you have.
Actually, like we are a boarding school, so that's why like we have I am a repository in charge there.
Yeah.
So what we have for finance, as per school policy, we have to put the data for 10 years
Okay.
and digitize as well as hard copy, then we can destroy it.
Okay.
And like for HR, in each HR for employees who retired, like library is a part of that repository. We have other department as well.
Okay.
So our school have decided each department, like for doctor reports, we can put 3 years the document.
Okay.
In this way, we we make the policies.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So NISO said that your collection policy or your collection strategy that should become the guiding principle of your digital collections. Your digital collections, they must be well described. Why? To help users to discover and to help users to understand what the collection or the digital object is about. It must be curated. So that means it's actively managed throughout the life cycle of the digital object. It should be accessible to all categories of users. So when you are actually going to create, build, or acquire the digital content, first you look at as a part of the selection process that whether they are visual impaired or any persons they have the disability, our collections must be accessible to all. That's the equality principle. And its IPR and the copyright must be respected. So there is the job for the collections manager to create the rights record at the beginning of the objects. And the usage data must be trackable to look at whether it's useful or not. These are not my principles, they have been created by NISO. It must be interoperable. So when you are changing the system over or you are sharing your collections with the other partners, it becomes easier if it's interoperable. It should be integrated into users' flow. And that means if users, they are accessing, for example, Moodle, MOOCs, or they are somewhere else, your collection is available in their teaching or research work, they are most likely to use it. And it must be sustainable over time. It's not that you have created a digital collection, and after 1 year it does not work. So what I have tried to embed all those principles into the life cycle approach. And the life cycle approach I'm going to propose, I will discuss in the next slide. So why life cycle approach? Because it helps in managing the complexity of collections management. It focuses on the long-term sustainability rather than having ad hoc and short-term focus on the collection. You can use this as a planning tool for what? To establish the cost of the digital collection or of the digital object over the lifetime. You can also create library staffing structure, defining their roles and responsibility around the life cycle. And if you are building shared digital collections, the life cycle will help you actually to define the role of the each partner. And also it shows the library, that the library is committed, and the accountability of the library, that the library is not just there to create the ad hoc content. And this is the collection strategy. This is the life cycle approach I am suggesting. It is different from others, and I will explain why. There are some quite few models in the literature. The Gravestone from University of Huddersfield has created the life cycle called terms, techniques for educational resource management. But most of the life cycles, they begin from the selection or the acquisition process. But as I'm saying, the digital technology is highly people-centered. It builds the services around the users. So I think we should start from the user needs and demands. And all those things, they should align with the library collection strategy and the policy. And I must say that every library should have the collection strategy and policy both, not just one. So this is the life cycle. And when I said the digital curation, so this is the life cycle which I will discuss very briefly. So first, why should we have the collection management strategy or policy for the library? Because it set up the roadmap for the long term, for the next 3 to 5 years, what you are going to do. It sets out the principles according to which library we are going to acquire. Many people, they have a problem with disposal of material, that our academics, they won't allow us to dispose material. And this is it. If you have defined the principles in your collection policy and strategy, then you can say that this is our policy we have created, and you have agreed to that. It helps aligning all your library activities, that how you are going to contribute to the success of your university with the university mission and with the university strategic goals and projects. Your collection management strategy ensures the collections stay relevant and is refreshed during its life cycle. And it must be driven by user needs, not by speculation that we will build and the users will come. This is not the case anymore. And you can use this as a PR tool for the library. When you are going to various meetings, you can show that the library has a strategy. You can engage faculty, and you can engage the university senior management with that. And also it will help you, and in practically I have done throughout my working life, building the business case for funding to the university. Like this is our collection strategy for the next 3 to 5 years, and so much money we will need to build these collections. So coming to user needs. Ranganathan's principle. Number, the law. 2, can you remember what is the law 2? Yeah. And third? Yeah. And same applies to the digital collections. Every collection is unique. It has its own users. It has its own goals and needs. And also, the third law, that every user has its unique collections. So both sides. So it's still applicable in the digital world. When you are looking at the needs, these are the sources from where you will gather the needs for resources. You will draw from university strategies such as teaching, learning, and research strategies. That faculty might ask you to digitize resources on demands if they were not available in the market. The needs arising from special fundings. I don't know about India, but in UK, time to time, we get the funding calls that we need to build digital collections in such and such areas. So if the library is the special library and we have some special collections, we put the business cases and get the money, yeah, for to digitize resources. The selection. The one thing, I'm just going to briefly mention this, I don't know what's the time. The selection process focuses on, is very user-centered. How to meet the user's need. So finding the best fit for the user's needs. And I will describe that in the next slides, what the acquisition means. Deciding from commercial open access, from where you are going to get the resource. Your focus is on the user need. Testing of technical platforms and tools, not just buying the resources and then looking at what I'm going to do with that. Running the demos and trials. Here you have the opportunity to involve students, to involve faculties, to participate in the trials and the demos of the resources. When I say acquisition, you are finding the model, purchasing models. How can I do more with the less money? Because the money is getting less and less, and the needs are growing. So here we are looking at the cost effectiveness of the resources. How many of you are doing the patron-driven purchasing, demand-driven acquisition here? I think here you need to use your negotiation skills with the suppliers of the demand-driven acquisition, that they should give more time. But these models, they are becoming actually the norm in our Western country. So here are the, because in the beginning there were some smaller suppliers, they were offering that, but now the mainstream suppliers, they have started. So when I see like the models like a DDA, PDA or the PPV, they are very good at meeting the current needs. But as a life cycle approach, we are looking at the sustainability over long term. So here we come, we have to negotiate the perpetual access like that with the suppliers, so we can offer it on the long term. The negotiations of licensing is also finalized at the acquisition stage, and all the copyright IPR authentication models which we are going to apply. Okay, and then that is the organization, because that is the key to discovery of the resources. If it's not described well, it will not be discovered by the users, and it's a wastage of money. So we have to create the metadata for digital objects, descriptive metadata, because it allows searching. It also helps the users to understand. It also helps the display and interoperability. Administrative metadata, because if your collection is not trustworthy, the users don't trust it, they are not going to use it. So you have to look at that, who is the owner, who has created, who is it, to establish the authority of that resource. Technical metadata for operability and structural metadata for navigation and preservation. So it's much more than just describing the resource. Undertaking any technical developments at that stage, which you have already established at the selection stage. And storage of content. where you are going to store, whether it's a cloud or in the university or it's a consortia shared storage. Testing, training, and awareness at this stage. Now the discovery and access. I think now in India, they are beginning to implement the resource discovery.
Discovery services have been in use in India since last 5 years, more than 5 years.
Okay.
8 years, 2010.
Okay, okay, that's good. Because these are some major suppliers. So such as, like when I look at the Ex Libris, Summon and Primo, they have the big knowledge base behind. Like Marshall, I think in the morning replied to the Viewfind questions. That is
Open source.
yeah, but Viewfind is only like the search engine, but what you need a big index behind that. So these are some of the big. So as I said, whistle stop tour, I'm running. Am I running of time?
No.
Okay, okay, then I can relax. Yeah. So at this discovery stage, these are the steps you need to follow. This is what you need to do. Digital curation. I think it has been mentioned by Robin and also by Dr. Bhattacharya as well as a part of the scholarly communication. But this is about the enrichment of the digital content over the lifetime of a digital resource. What it involves, this involves having the active data management. Who is using the resources, who is not using the resources, tracking the usage of your collections, archiving the collections for the long term, digital preservation, and also enriching the resources, which I'm going to cover in a few minutes, focusing on adding the value to the digital content, not just for your current users, but also for the future generation of the content. Digital preservation. So there are some, I think 2 techniques, they are more popular for digital preservation. The one is storing the data in the binary format, which is the emulation. It's storing the content but not storing the format. So like on the application where the digital resource was created, it will not store the format but only the content. And you can recreate the content from that after 5 years, after 10 years, whenever is needed. The second digital preservation activity is migration to new formats. So for example, like the PDF, JPEG or Excel, you have created the resource, okay, on Excel 1, and now it's Excel 5. You have to keep moving the formats, keep changing the formats for the digital preservation. I will be quick. Okay. And also the media, like the stuff we saved on our floppy disks, on our CD-ROMs, it doesn't work anymore. So you also have to transfer the data dealing with the media to the new media available. And outsourcing. These days there are so many suppliers, they can do your digital preservation for a lot of time. But of course, it is expensive, you need the budget for that. So, what will be the future of our collections? What sort of collections we are going to see in our future? I see the open access content is increasing all the time. It's already about, I think, 35% of the content many libraries now they use, it comes from the open access. I see by 2030, we will be looking at around 45–50% of the content of the library coming from open access. Also, I'll see that our efforts, now we put more efforts now dealing with the suppliers, negotiation with the suppliers, getting the orders ready. They will shift from purchasing the content to curation, adding value to the digital content over the lifetime. This is becoming more popular in Western world because we can do more with the less budget. The patron-driven acquisition and the demand-driven acquisition will become the mainstream purchasing model, acquisition model for the libraries. And also providing access to smaller chunks, book chapters, articles, project reports, that is becoming more effective, so rather than providing the whole journal run to our user communities. And also I see the increase in the artificial intelligence, virtual reality and the mixed reality content, it will become more and more. And many library system suppliers, they have started building artificial intelligence like the chatbots already in their content. When I see sometimes the new generation, my neighbor's son is only about 4 years old. He does not search. He always talks to Siri. Siri, I want this. Siri, this is the new generation which we are looking at. The artificial content, intelligence content is going to increase many folds in the next 10 years. And as a librarians, we have to learn those skills. Also, I think the analytics, the academic analytics, our discovery analytics, we will be relying on that because we have to show to our institution the impact what we are doing. If we don't have analytics, we are not able to show to our managers or to the institution that what impact of our services is having. And I think the future is impact, not just the access to your digital collections. How you create value for your user communities, how you create value for your university. This is where you come. And for that, you don't need only the technical skills. Technical skills are very important, but also you need a good leadership skills, good negotiation skills, how to develop strategic partnerships and alliances with all partners.
You have actually predicted the future with a few points in your last slide. We'd like to know the source of those predictions.
Which one is that?
Just one slide before this. Yeah. So for all these points, we'd like to know the source.
Okay, the library efforts will shift from purchasing to curation.
Yeah.
I have read, I don't know how many articles, and that is the way we are. And also it's from my experience as well.
Okay.
Okay. The one example I can give you if you have a time, we were going to introduce the new course, I think BA in refugee study, BA in theatre studies, and there was no material available actually in the market for that. We had to create those resources, but also the efforts were that how we are going to manage it over the lifetime, and by crowdsourcing, adding to that clause to enrich that collection.
Okay, thank you.